Imagine being abandoned by the one you loved, left with nothing but two hungry children and a broken heart. Imagine struggling on the streets, thinking no one would ever care, until an unexpected face from the past appears. Is it fate? Is it a second chance? Or is it another heartbreak waiting to happen? Sit back and find out as we dive into this powerful story of love, betrayal, and redemption. The streets of Lagos were alive with noise. Cars made their way through traffic. Pedestrians hurried along the sidewalks. Robert sat in the back of his black SUV, scrolling through his phone as his driver navigated the familiar morning rush. As they approached a busy junction, the car bumped slightly, dipping into a pothole. The driver slowed down, carefully navigating around the rough road. Robert looked up, noticing how rough the road was, but his eyes landed on something that made him freeze. By the roadside, a woman sat on the ground. Her back leaned against a small tree. Her clothes were worn out, her hair unkempt, and her arms held two little boys close. The children, no older than 4, held onto her, their small faces tired and weary. One wiped his face with the back of his hand, while the other stared blankly into the distance. Robert's chest tightened. There was something familiar about the woman, something from long ago. He leaned forward, narrowing his eyes. Could it be? No, it wasn't possible. Yet, as the car slowly moved forward, the uneasy feeling in his stomach grew stronger. His heartbeat quickened. It was her. Robert swallowed hard and quickly spoke. "Pull over," he instructed his driver. The driver obeyed, parking a short distance away. Without another thought, Robert stepped out of the car and walked toward the woman, his polished shoes tapping against the rough pavement. His heart pounded with every step. Standing just a few feet away, he hesitated, studying her face up close. There was no mistake. It was Amaka. Taking a deep breath, he mentioned her name. "Amaka?" The woman startled at the sound. Slowly, she lifted her head. Her eyes, once bright and full of life, were now dull and heavy with pain. The moment she saw him, she tensed up. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. "Robert?" she finally managed to say, her voice weak. He was overwhelmed with emotions. Amaka, the girl who once walked through school with confidence, who never noticed him beyond an awkward classmate. Now she looked broken, lost. For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The noise of the city returned, but it felt distant. The two boys hugged their mother tightly, knowing she was upset. Robert's jaw tightened. What happened to you?" Amaka looked down, her arms tightening around her children. "Leave, Robert. Just go." But he couldn't. Not after seeing her like this. Not after remembering who she once was. Something deep inside him refused to walk away. Amaka pulled her sons closer, as if shielding them from a danger only she could see. Her body shook slightly, and her lips trembled as she whispered, "Robert?" The way she said his name, soft, uncertain, sent a strange feeling through his chest. This was not the Amaka he remembered. She had once been full of life, always surrounded by friends, always laughing. She had been the girl everyone admired, the one he had secretly liked from afar. Back in school, she never saw him. Not really. She was the shining star, and he was just another boy in the background. And when he finally gathered the courage to talk to her, she had laughed. Not cruelly, but the kind of laugh that made it clear he was not someone she would ever consider important. But now, the confident girl he had admired was gone. She had become a woman that looked exhausted, holding on to her children like they were the only thing keeping her afloat. Robert swallowed, suppressing the pain of past memories. Amaka let out a shaky breath, her fingers gripping the thin fabric of her son's shirts. The boys held on to her, their eyes glanced between her and the strange man standing before them. Robert took a step closer, his voice gentle but firm. "Amaka, what happened? How did you end up here?" She lowered her eyes. "It doesn't matter, just leave, please." Robert's chest tightened. "Amaka, this isn't right. You don't belong here. You were supposed to have a good life." She let out a weak, bitter laugh. "Life happened, Robert, and not everyone gets a second chance." He looked at her children, then at her. with compassion. "Let me help you." Her head snapped up, her eyes flashing with something. Anger, shame, fear. "Help? You don't understand. You can't just fix everything. Some things are too broken to be fixed." Robert exhaled, steadying himself. "Maybe, but that doesn't mean you have to face it alone." Amaka turned away, holding her boys tighter. "Just go, Robert. This isn't your problem." Robert studied her, seeing beyond the dirt and exhaustion. This was a woman who had suffered, who had fought to survive. And yet, the Amaka he had once known was still there, buried under the weight of whatever had happened to her. He wasn't going to walk away. Robert's eyes softened, but his voice was firm. "Come with me, Amaka. I can help you." Amaka shook her head quickly. "No, we will manage. I don't need your pity." Robert took a deep breath. "This is not pity. This is me trying to help someone I know, someone I care about." Amaka shook her head. "You don't understand. If I go with you, what happens next? I can't depend on anyone, Robert. Life has taught me that." Robert studied her. "Life has been unkind to you, Amaka, but you don't have to fight alone." She looked away. "We are fine. Just leave." Before Robert could respond, one of the twins cried. His tiny hand held his stomach. A low, weak cry escaped his lips. Robert's heart sank. The boy was hungry. The other child buried his face in Amaka's side, his small body shaking. Robert bent his knees, squatting before her. "Amaka, look at them. They need food. They need a safe place. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to be stubborn. I believe God has orchestrated our paths to cross for the sake of these children." Amaka's lips trembled. She looked down at her sons, her face filled with pain and tears. For the first time, Robert saw something shift in her eyes. Hesitation. Amaka's expression turned serious, her fingers shaking slightly as she looked from Robert to her children. She could see the concern in his eyes, but she had spent years learning not to trust promises. People always left. Help always came with a price. Robert sighed. "Amaka, I know this is hard, but you need to let someone in. Let me in, just for tonight. Let the boys eat, sleep in a warm bed." Her breathing faltered as she looked down at her sons. They were weak, too tired to complain. She couldn't keep pretending they were fine. She nodded, barely whispering, "All right. But just for tonight." Robert exhaled, his relief visible. He helped her up gently, then led her and the children toward the car. As they entered, Robert turned to his driver and said, "Make a U-turn. Take us home." The drive to Robert's house was silent. Amaka stared out of the window, deep in thought, as if afraid this was all a dream that would disappear. Before they arrived, Robert had called his chef and given a simple instruction. "Prepare something nice. Something warm." He wanted Amaka and her children to have the best meal they had eaten in a long time. When they arrived, she hesitated before stepping out. The house before her was huge, glowing with warm lights. The boys clung to her legs, their eyes wide in amazement. Inside, the air smelled fresh, the floors sparkled, and everything felt soft and welcoming. The twins looked around in awe, their little fingers brushing against the couch. But Amaka felt out of place. The walls were too clean, the furniture too expensive. She had spent years in the dirt. She didn't feel she belonged here. Robert placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to feel this way, Amaka. You and the boys are safe here." She swallowed hard, fighting the lump in her throat. Safe. She had not felt that in a long time. The dining table was filled with steaming plates of food, jollof rice, fried plantain, and bowls of pepper soup. The rich aroma filled the air, but Amaka hesitated, her fingers gripping the edge of her chair. Her sons, however, had no such doubts. As soon as the plates were set before them, they eagerly started eating. Amaka watched them, her heart aching. For months, they had survived on scraps, eating only when a kind stranger offered something. Seeing them eat a proper meal now felt unreal. Robert, seated across from her, noticed the way she held back. "Amaka, eat. You don't have to be afraid." Her lips trembled as she picked up a spoon. She took a bite of the rice. The rich, spicy taste filled her mouth, and before she realized it, tears welled up in her eyes. She covered her mouth, trying to hide her emotions. Robert saw and pretended not to notice. He simply poured her a glass of water and slid it toward her. "Take your time." Amaka swallowed hard, blinking rapidly. "Thank you," she whispered. Her sons, unaware of their mother's struggle, continued eating happily. One of them, with food on his cheek, looked up and smiled. "Mommy, this is the best food ever." A shaky smile broke through Amaka's tears. "I know, my love. I know." After eating, the boys were taken to a guest room where a housekeeper helped them clean up and get into fresh clothes. Amaka, now alone with Robert in the living room, sat stiffly on the edge of the couch. The warmth of the house, the soft glow of the lamps. It all felt too comfortable, too unfamiliar. Robert sat across from her, studying her carefully. "Amaka, what happened? How did you end up like this?" She exhaled. "It's a long story. I have time." Amaka folded her hands together, staring at the floor. After a moment, she let out a deep sigh. "I was young and foolish," she began. "When I met Amika, he was everything I thought I wanted. Charming, confident. He had a way of making me feel like the only woman in the world." Robert remained quiet, listening. "He promised me heaven and earth. He talked about a future, about a big house, about children running around in a beautiful home. I believed him. I trusted him. But when I told him I was pregnant, everything changed." She paused, her eyes dark with memories. "At first, he pretended to be happy, but I saw the fear in his eyes. Then, little by little, he started avoiding me. Calls went unanswered. Messages were ignored. Then one day, he was gone. Just like that." Robert clenched his jaw. "So, he just abandoned you?" "Yes," Amaka whispered. "And I was left with nothing. No job, no money, no support. My father threw me out, said I had brought shame to the family. My mother cried, but she couldn't stop him. I had nowhere to go. I struggled, Robert. I begged for jobs. I did everything I could to take care of my boys, but it was never enough." Robert clenched his fists, his chest tightening with rage. "That man left you to suffer? He didn't even check on his children?" Amaka shook her head. "Not once. Not a single phone call. He never even saw them." Robert exhaled sharply. "Where is he now? Do you know?" "I've no idea. I stopped looking. After a while, I realized he was never coming back." Robert's fingers dug into the armrest of his chair. "A real man doesn't abandon his children. He doesn't leave the woman he claimed to love to suffer like this." Amaka gave a bitter smile. "Emeka was never a real man. He was just a coward in a nice suit." Robert shook his head. "If I ever find him..." Amaka placed a hand on his arm, stopping him. "Robert, it doesn't matter anymore. What matters now is my boys. They need stability. They need a future." Robert took a deep breath, trying to control his anger. "And they will have one, Amaka. You don't have to do this alone anymore. I won't let you." Tears welled in Amaka's eyes. But this time, they were not just from pain. They carried something else. Hope. Amaka looked down. "I made a big mistake, Robert. I was proud. I never imagined I'd need help." Robert leaned forward, his eyes soft but serious. "Amaka, pride is not a crime. Wanting a good life is not a mistake." She let out a shaky breath. "But I ignored the signs. I should have known Emeka wasn't the man I thought he was. People warned me, but I didn't listen. I thought I was smarter than them. I thought love was enough." Robert stayed silent, letting her speak. "And when things got bad, I still couldn't ask for help. I kept thinking I could fix it myself. That if I just held on a little longer, things would change. But they didn't. They only got worse." She blinked rapidly, looking away. "I was too ashamed to face anyone from my past. I thought they would laugh at me, tell me I deserved it, that I had made my bed and now had to lie in it." Robert shook his head. "No one deserves what happened to you, Amaka. No one." She swallowed hard. "But I laughed at you once, Robert. Back in school, when you liked me, I thought you weren't good enough. Now look at us. You're the one who's offering to help me, and I'm the one who has nothing." Robert exhaled. "Life doesn't work like that. You think I'm helping you because of some old feelings? No, Amaka. This isn't about the past. It's about what is right. And leaving you on the streets with those boys would be wrong. Amaka's lips trembled, but she said nothing. Robert sighed, rubbing his palms together before speaking again. You don't have to be ashamed, Amaka. Everyone makes mistakes. She shook her head. But I don't want to be a burden to you. Robert let out a short laugh. A burden? Do you know how many people I help that I don't even know? You are someone I grew up with, someone I once cared about. If I can help strangers, why wouldn't I help you? Amaka's eyes filled with tears again, but she quickly wiped them away. I just don't want to feel like I owe anyone. Robert nodded. Then don't. Consider this a second chance, not a debt. A chance for you to get back on your feet, for your boys to have a better life. She took a deep breath, staring at her hands. Slowly, she nodded. Okay, Robert. I'll try. Robert smiled, the first genuine smile he had shown all day. That's all I asked. The next morning, Robert arranged for Amaka and the boys to get new clothes. He led them to a boutique in a quiet part of town, where a kind-looking woman welcomed them with a warm smile. Pick whatever you like, Robert said. Amaka hesitated, looking at the price tags. Everything looked expensive. Robert, I can't. You can, Amaka. Your boys deserve this. You deserve this. She took a deep breath and nodded, unsure but knowing her children needed this. And the twins ran excitedly through the store, picking out tiny shirts and showing them to their mother. Amaka carefully selected simple but elegant dresses for herself and the kids. When they were done at the boutique, Robert took them to a hospital for a full checkup. Amaka sat anxiously as the doctor examined her boys. They are a little underweight, the doctor said. But with proper meals, they will be fine. Amaka let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. For the first time in a long time, she felt a tiny sense of relief. As they stepped out of the hospital, Amaka turned to Robert. Why are you doing all this? Robert stopped walking and faced her. Because I care, Amaka. She folded her arms, looking at him with suspicion. People don't just help for no reason, Robert. What do you want from me? Robert sighed. Not everything in life comes with a price. I just want to see you and the boys safe. Amaka studied him, trying to read his face. She had spent so long struggling, so long expecting the worst, that kindness felt strange to her. I don't know how to trust anymore, Robert. Then don't trust me yet, he said simply. Just take things one step at a time. Amaka looked at her boys, now smiling and full for the first time in months. Maybe, just maybe, Robert was right. The next morning, Robert called Amaka into his study. She sat nervously across from him, unsure of what to expect. I want to offer you a job, Robert said. Amaka blinked, confused. A job? Robert nodded. Yes, at my company. She shifted in her seat. Robert, I don't know anything about business. What would I even do? You'll start with simple tasks. Office work, managing records, helping with customer service. You'll learn as you go. Amaka hesitated. I don't think I can do this. I've been out of work for too long. What if I make mistakes? Robert smiled. Everyone makes mistakes, Amaka. But I know you're smart. You just need a fresh start. She looked down. What if your employees don't respect me? What if they think I don't belong there? Robert leaned forward. Then they'll have to answer to me. But Amaka, this is not about them. This is about you. You have to start believing in yourself. She swallowed hard. The thought of stepping into an office, of working in a place filled with people who had never struggled like she had, felt overwhelming. But then she thought of her boys. They needed stability. They needed a future. She lifted her head and met Robert's gaze. Okay, I'll try. Robert smiled. That's all I need to hear? Amaka's first day at work was nerve-wracking. She felt out of place as she stepped into the large office building. The employees looked polished and confident, moving through their tasks with ease. Compared to them, she felt small, unsure. Robert introduced her to the staff. This is Amaka. She will be working with us from now on. Please give her all the support she needs." Some employees nodded politely, while others exchanged glances. Amaka could hear their silent questions. Who is she? Where did she come from? Does she even know what she's doing? At first, the work felt overwhelming. She struggled with the computer, forgot instructions, and made small mistakes. She felt like everyone was watching, waiting for her to fail. One afternoon, she sat at her desk, staring at the screen in frustration. Robert walked by and noticed. "You okay?" he asked. She sighed. "I don't think I belong here, Robert. I feel lost." He pulled up a chair beside her. "Amaka, when I started this company, I didn't know half of what I know now. I made mistakes too. You're learning. That's what matters." She bit her lip. "I just don't want to disappoint you." Robert shook his head. "The only way you can disappoint me is if you give up. And I don't think you're the kind of woman who gives up." His words stayed with her. Day by day, she worked harder. She listened, asked questions, and slowly, things started making sense. She learned to use the computer, handle records, and talk to clients with confidence. One afternoon, a customer walked in, upset about an issue with an order. Amaka calmly listened, took notes, and assured him that the problem would be fixed. When the man left, Robert, who had been watching, smiled. "You handled that well." For the first time since she started, Amaka smiled back. "Maybe I'm starting to figure this out." Robert nodded. "I knew you would." Ifemji and Ebube, Amaka's sons, were happier than ever. Their tired faces had been replaced with bright smiles. They had new clothes, a warm bed, and food whenever they were hungry. But more than that, they had safety. Each morning they ran around the house, playing and laughing like children should. They followed Robert everywhere, calling him Uncle Robert. They would sit with him when he read the newspaper, ask him endless questions about his work, and climb onto his lap without hesitation. One evening, as Robert sat in the living room, Ifemji climbed onto the couch beside him. "Uncle Robert, will we stay here forever?" Robert looked at the boy's hopeful eyes and smiled. "For as long as your mother wants." Ebube, who had been playing on the floor, looked up. "Mommy is happy here. She doesn't cry at night anymore." Robert's heart clenched. He reached out and ruffled the boy's hair. "That's a good thing, isn't it?" Ifemji nodded. "Yes! And we love it here too." Amaka, standing by the doorway, watched the scene unfold. She placed a hand over her chest, feeling an emotion she hadn't in a long time. Peace. Robert had also enrolled the children in a good school, ensuring they had the education they deserved. Far away in a crowded bar, Emeka sat with a drink in his hand, listening to gossip. A man beside him spoke in a hushed tone. "Do you know Amaka? The one with the twins? She's staying in that rich man's house now. The man is even taking care of her children." Emeka's grip on his glass tightened. "What do you mean taking care of her children?" The man shook his head. "They live in his house. He feeds them, clothes them. Some say he might even adopt them legally." Emeka's chest tightened. His mind raced with thoughts. What if this man adopted his children? What if he lost them forever? No, that could not happen. He stood up suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Where can I find this man?" After asking around, Emeka finally got the information he needed. The next morning, he walked into Robert's office without an appointment. The receptionist stood up quickly. "Sir, you can't just—" But Emeka ignored her and barged into Robert's office. Robert, who had been reviewing documents, looked up, surprised. "I heard Amaka is living in your house," Emeka said, his voice sharp. "I want to see my children." Robert narrowed his eyes and leaned forward. "Who are you, young man? And how dare you barge into my office without an appointment?" The receptionist stepped in nervously. "I'm sorry, sir. I tried to stop him, but—" Robert lifted a hand, cutting her off. "Hey, that's okay. I'll take it up from here." Emeka straightened his shoulders and spoke in a hard voice. "I'm Emeka, the father of Amaka's children, and I have every right to see them." Robert's expression darkened. "The father?" He let out a bitter smile. "You left them on the streets, and now you care? Do you even know their names? Do you know how they've survived up to this day?" Emeka's face tightened. "They are my blood, I have a right to them. Robert stood up slowly, his voice sharp. A father's right is earned, not claimed when it's convenient. Where were you when they were hungry? Where were you when they had no place to sleep? Emeka clenched his fists. I made mistakes, but that doesn't mean I don't love my children. I want to see them now. Robert shook his head. You don't get to walk in here and demand anything. If you truly cared, you wouldn't have let them suffer in the first place. At that moment, the door opened and Emeka walked in. She stopped when she saw Emeka, her face twisting with anger. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Emeka stepped forward, her voice shaking with fury. You have the nerve to come here, after everything you did? Emeka turned to her. Emeka, I just want to see my sons. They are mine too. She let out a sharp laugh. Yours? Did you think about that when you abandoned us? You disconnected our communication link. Where were you when I begged on the streets just to feed them? When I carried them in my arms at night, wondering where we'd find our next meal? Emeka swallowed hard. I made mistakes. No! Emeka cut him off, stepping closer. You made a choice. You chose to leave. You chose to let us suffer while you went on with your life. You don't get to walk in now and act like a father. You don't deserve them. Emeka's face darkened. You can't keep them from me. They are my children. Emeka's eyes burned with anger. No, Emeka. They are my children. I was the one who raised them. I was the one who protected them. I was the one who suffered for them. Where were you? Emeka's mouth opened, but no words came out. Emeka took a deep breath, her hands shaking. You had your chance, Emeka. My sons don't need an unreliable father, and I will not let you hurt them. Robert finally spoke. You heard her. Now leave. Emeka stood frozen, his fists clenched. He looked at Emeka, then at Robert, then back at the door, as if searching for a way to regain control. But he saw it clearly now. He had lost. Emeka's eyes held no fear, no longing, no regret. Only certainty. His lips parted as if he wanted to argue, but nothing came out. He knew there were no words that could undo the past. No excuse that would erase his absence. Finally, he let out a heavy breath and turned towards the door. Without another word, he walked away. Emeka stood still, listening as his footsteps faded. When the door shut behind him, she let out a long breath she didn't know she had been holding. Her hands trembled slightly, but it wasn't from fear. It was from relief. Robert watched her closely. Are you okay? Emeka nodded. For the first time in years, I think I am. Days turned into weeks, and life slowly settled into something Emeka had never thought possible. Peace. The twins were thriving. Ifemji and Ebube no longer looked at the world with tired, fearful eyes. They laughed more, played without worry, and ran into Robert's arms each evening when he returned from work. One afternoon, Emeka and Robert sat outside in the garden, watching the boys chase each other around. Emeka looked at Robert. I don't think I ever thanked you properly. Robert smiled. You don't have to. Seeing you and the boys happy is enough. She looked him in the eye, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel something she had buried for years. One evening, Robert and Emeka sat on the balcony. Emeka was scrolling through her phone when Robert exhaled slowly and turned to her. Emeka, I need to tell you something, he said, pausing, his voice steady but serious. Emeka looked at him, sensing the weight of his words. What is it? He hesitated for a brief moment, then spoke. Emeka, I have loved you for years, but this time, I want you to choose me for who I am, not what I have. Emeka's breath caught in her throat. She wasn't expecting this. Not now. She searched his face, looking for any sign that he was joking, but Robert's eyes held nothing but honesty. She looked away, her heart pounding. Robert, I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything, he said softly. Just listen. She swallowed hard, nodding for him to continue. I don't want to be just the man who helped you when you were down. I want to be more than that. I want to stand by you. Not because I feel sorry for you, but because I choose you. And I want you to choose me too. Not because of what I've done, but because you truly want to. Amaka stared at the boys playing, her mind clouded with emotions she had buried for too long. She took a deep breath, gripping the edge of her chair. Robert, this is a lot. Robert nodded. I know, and I don't expect an answer right now, but I needed you to know how I feel. She closed her eyes for a moment, memories flashing through her mind. She had trusted before. She had believed in love before, and it had left her broken. I've been hurt, Robert, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I gave my heart to someone once, and he destroyed me. What if I make the wrong choice again? What if it all falls apart? Robert reached out and gently took her hand. I can't promise you that life will be perfect, Amaka, but I can promise you this. I will never leave you. I will never abandon you or the boys. I will fight for you, for us. Every single day. Tears welled in Amaka's eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust again, but fear still held onto her heart. She turned to him, searching his face for any doubt, any hesitation. But there was none. Just warmth. Just patience. I don't know if I can do this, she admitted. Robert squeezed her hand lightly. Then take your time. I'm not going anywhere. For the first time, Amaka allowed herself to consider the possibility of love again. It was terrifying. But this time, it also felt safe. As days passed, Amaka found herself watching Robert in a different way. She noticed his patience with the boys, the way he always listened when she spoke, the way he never pressured her. He didn't just say he cared, he showed it, in every little thing he did. One evening as they sat outside, Amaka took a deep breath and spoke. Robert, I see it now. I see who you are. And I know now that I love you too. Robert's eyes softened, and for a moment, he said nothing. Then he smiled. Are you sure? Amaka nodded. Yes, I am. Not long after, Robert got down on one knee, holding out a simple but elegant ring. Amaka, will you marry me? Amaka's hands flew to her mouth, and happy tears filled her eyes. Yes, Robert. Yes. Robert laughed, pulling her into a hug. A few days later, Robert brought up something important. Amaka, I think it's time we visit your family. Let's make peace with them. Amaka frowned. Robert, my father threw me out. He didn't care what happened to me. Why should I go back? Robert took her hands in his. Because forgiveness is not for them. It's for you. And maybe, just maybe, they regret what they did. After much thought, Amaka agreed. They traveled to her family home, taking the twins along. When they arrived, her mother broke down in tears, holding Amaka tightly. My daughter, I have missed you so much. Her father, looking older and weaker, stepped forward, his voice shaking. Amaka, I was wrong. I let my pride drive you away. Can you ever forgive me? Tears streamed down Amaka's face. She had carried this pain for years, but in that moment, she let it go. Yes, Papa, I forgive you. Robert cleared his throat and spoke with respect. Sir, I love your daughter, and I want to marry her. I promise to take care of her and the boys. Amaka's father looked at Robert, then at his daughter. Then he nodded. You have my blessing, my son. The whole family celebrated that night. Amaka's parents were very happy to be reunited with their daughter and grandchildren. As they left the next morning, Amaka felt lighter. She had found love, family, and finally, peace. The day of the traditional wedding arrived, and the air buzzed with excitement. Family and friends gathered, dressed in their finest attire. Amaka, adorned in a stunning native outfit, walked gracefully into the ceremony venue, her heart filled with emotions she couldn't describe. Drums beat rhythmically, and the melodious sound of traditional songs echoed through the air. Women danced joyfully, their colorful wrappers swaying with each movement. The sweet aroma of jollof rice and fried meat filled the venue, making everyone eager for the feast ahead. Robert, dressed in traditional attire, stood at the front, his eyes locked on Amaka. When she finally stood before him, he smiled. You look beautiful, Amaka. She blushed, lowering her gaze for a moment before meeting his eyes. and you look like a man ready to become a husband." The ceremony continued, with prayers, blessings, and the symbolic pouring of palm wine. Amaka's father, now a humbled man, placed her hands in Robert's. "Take care of my daughter," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Robert nodded. "With all my heart." As the night fell, the celebration continued with laughter, music, and endless dancing. The twins ran around happily, their faces full of excitement. Life after the wedding was different, but in the best way possible. Amaka, Robert, and the twins settled into their new life, creating a home filled with love and laughter. Robert remained the caring man she had grown to love, always putting family first. The twins adored him, calling him Daddy without hesitation. He read them bedtime stories and made sure they always had everything they needed. One evening, as Amaka tucked the boys into bed, Robert stood by the doorway, watching with a soft smile. When she walked up to him, he pulled her into a warm embrace. "Are you happy?" he asked. Amaka looked up at him, her heart swelling. "More than I ever thought I could be." Robert kissed her forehead. "Then that's all that matters." As they stood there, holding each other, Amaka realized something. Life had given her a second chance. And she had taken it. No longer was she the woman abandoned on the streets. She was a wife, a mother, and most importantly, she was loved. And so they lived happily, proving that second chances and true love could change lives forever. Life is full of unexpected turns, but no matter how hard things get, hope is never truly lost. Sometimes help comes from the least expected places, and second chances can lead to a beautiful new beginning. Amaka's story teaches us that strength is not in facing struggles alone, but in accepting help when it comes. And most importantly, true love is not about what someone has, but about who they truly are. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to read from you. And guess what? A brand new exciting story is coming your way in just a few days. So, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I upload it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. Thank you so much for your support, and see you in the next story.